Yes, we are now live.
Okay, right. Thank you very much. We'll start now then. So welcome everybody to the planning meeting the 4th of May, which was reconvened following technical problems from the 29th of April. So welcome everybody, and thank you very much for coming along to this meeting. First of all, a little bit of general housekeeping as I normally do. I'm Councillor Margaret Glancy, Chair of Planning. And prior to this evening's meeting, we have tested the technology and confirmed the speakers are in attendance and can be heard. I also confirm that I can see and or hear my fellow participating members here this evening. Those members are Councillor Bindloss, Councillor Brown, Councillor Chandler, Councillor Faulkner, Councillor Hewson, Councillor Higgins, Councillor Holmes, Councillor Posnett, Councillor Steadman and Councillor Wood. We have a team of officers present here this evening as well. We have our Assistant Director for Planning and Delivery, Mr. Jim Worley. We have our Planning Development Manager, Louise Parker. We have our Planning Solicitor, Tom Pickwell. We also have our Senior Democratic Services Officer, Adam Green, and our Democratic Services Officer, Sarah Evans. Do we have Planning Officer Lynn Eastwood present this evening, Jim? No. Okay.
No, Louise is back.
Yeah. Okay. That just want to double check in case I missed her out. Thank you. Members speaking. As usual, please use the raise hand facility on your screen, and a member of the Democratic Services team, probably Adam, will make a note and inform me accordingly if I don't spot it. Members voting. Please note a remote member participating in a vote will cast his or her vote as if participating in a recorded vote. I will ask members alphabetically for their vote, either for, against, or abstain. All microphones will be unmuted whilst the vote is being recorded, and following the vote, all microphones will be returned to mute. Disruption to remote conferencing, and I refer you to the remote meeting procedure rules. In the event of a link failure for all attendees, I will call a short adjournment of up to 5 minutes if the link cannot be re-established. The meeting shall be adjourned to a later date. In the event of a link failure for individual members, the remote member will be deemed to have left the meeting at the point of failure of the equipment, and if the link cannot be re-established before the end of the meeting, then the presumption will be that the meeting should continue to deal with the items providing the meeting remains correct. If there is disruption with a member's connectivity, solicitor to the council will determine whether a member has heard enough of the debate to be able to lawfully vote depending on the particular circumstances and how much the member has missed. Just to remind you all, this meeting has been recorded, and members, please, if you could put your phones onto silent. We are also being live streamed. Thank you. Agenda items, apologies for absence. I take it there aren't any because we're all here. We've already confirmed the minutes of the 1st of April 2021 at the previous meeting, Tom. Do we have to go through this again? No. Okay, that's something that we've done already then. Declarations of interest. Please note the content of the advice on members' interests, and if you think you have a personal, either non-pecuniary or pecuniary interest or bias, please state that now. Hand raised, Councillor Posnett.
Thank you, Chairman. Just my usual one is a personal interest as a member of Leicestershire County Council. Thank you.
Okay. Councillor Holmes.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. At other organisations that I've chaired, etc., if you have to put something off, you do have to go through the minutes because it can be something that people have missed or something like that. I just think for proper protocol, I know that there is nothing, but I think you ought to just do it again. I think you ought to. Because it's something that I think is important, but it goes to other people. But I think you ought to, just as a matter of protocol. Thank you.
Thank you. Tom, what do you say on that one? I took your advice.
Sorry, just let Adam come in. I've noticed he's got his hand up first. That's okay.
Adam.
Yeah, my understanding is that as we are reconvening the meeting,
I know
the business that has been done before, you know, that's taken as it's been done, and we're just basically starting off from where we left off. Where we left off, as it were.
Yeah, but just in case anybody has any problems with the minutes, if you want to raise your hand now, we'll take it that the minutes were fine. No hands raised, so the minutes are okay. But thank you for pointing that out, Councillor Holmes.
That's all right.
Any other declarations of interest? Councillor Brown.
Yeah, sorry, my raised hand button's not working or not.
Oh no, well just wave to me. I'll hopefully.
Yeah, just in case you wonder. Yes, Chair, I would like to declare an interest in the item land to the south of Frisbee. I'll be leaving the meeting and speaking on that particular item.
All right. I'm glad you've mentioned that, because we'll be hearing item 4.2 first, due to the commitment of the Parish Council to their AGM at 7 o'clock. So I have agreed to amend the order of the agenda slightly. Okay. Right. There's no other hands raised. Thank you. A minute. Right, the first item on the agenda this evening is item 4.2, which is 20/00811/REM, which reserve matters of layout, appearance, scale and landscaping land at south of Frisbee on the Reek. You've moved Councillor Brown out, haven't you, Adam? Yeah, okay, that's brilliant. Thank you very much. Officers, who's taking this one? Is it Louise? Right, okay. Over to you, Louise.
Yes, Chair, thank you. Before we start with the presentation, there's a bit of a verbal update. There were some comments missing from the report as they hadn't been received. So I'm just going to read these word for word, just so we get the whole content of them. So one of the comments is from the ward member. These comments received state, over the past 9 months, I have worked with the Parish Council and listening also to residents about their concerns in relation to this development. The main concern raised has been the road and the fact it is outside the agreed limits to development in the neighbourhood plan. Over the past months, there have been much negotiation, and through dialogue, a compromise position has been agreed that I can accept. The reason for this is that an engineer perspective, there would be greater ecological damage and visual impact due to the way the road would have been built. A good compromise has been achieved. In addition to the road, the developer has listened to concerns about layout, ecology and lack of a small play area and addressed these issues in consultation with me and the Parish Council. Concerns were also raised about the access to the primary school from the new development in order to address concerns of additional traffic in the village, and this has been taken on board with an access being created into the rear of the playing fields. Some residents have raised concerns and the developer has further moved the path away from their properties. Finally, a concern of the village has been addressed on Gadsby Lane with regards to pedestrians, with the developer agreeing to install a footpath inside the hedgerow from the road access, which will be adopted by the Parish Council. Overall, I feel that we have nearly managed to achieve full compliance with the neighbourhood plan, but due to constraints with the site and ground levels, it has not been possible to have the road completely inside the limits to development. I am therefore happy to support this revised reserve matters application. Further comments have been received from the Parish Council, and these state that this was discussed at the Parish Council meeting on the 22nd of April 2021. It was noted that the access road has now been moved to a new compromise position within the first field. In addition, it was noticed that a new footpath is shown going up to the A607. Matters relating to the school access, the footpath to Rotherby Lane and the attenuation pond, all of which had now been discussed with residents, are also now agreed, save final detail. On this basis, it was unanimously agreed that this application can now be supported. There's also been further representations, and these are reiteration of the comments previously made and are within the report, but just to put these to members. Please find attached document which suggests alternatives for the siting of the school footpath from the Bowbridge estate to the back of the school. The document suggests locating the school path beyond plot 40 in the back border of the school, the southeast corner of the school grounds, preference 1. We absolutely support this proposal for the following reasons. It is close to the original proposed access to the school. This was set out in previous plans. Enable children from both the Bowbridge development and Steeplechase to access the school quickly and easily, and therefore reduce traffic congestion at the top of Hall Orchard. It is a shorter path and therefore cheaper. Perhaps Bowbridge could support the school with the excess funds with an internal path down the bank on the internal side. The Hedgerow Association have asked the buildings are moved away from the boundary and therefore there is a natural space or gap. It does not cut across a green field that could be used for natural planting and re-establishment of the animal community that would have been disturbed due to earthworks. There is no loss of privacy for residents at the top of Hall Orchard Lane. There is, however, concerns about the attenuation basin, which have been submitted in a separate document to MBC and the Parish Council, and they are within the report, those two comments regarding the attenuation basin. So if we can now move on to the presentation, please, Adam. And I think we need to start at slide 5. Lovely, thank you very much. So the application site is the Reserved Matters application for allocated site Fris 3. Access to the site from Gadsby Lane was approved at the outline stage in 2018. Details of housing mix are contained within the report, and these are referenced in detail on page 20. Next slide, please. The layout before you is revision Z, which gives you an insight to the journey that the application has been on. As you look at the layout in front of you, there are no outstanding objections from statutory consultees, with a number of revisions having been made excuse me, to overcome highway and ecology concerns, along with previous objections from many people regarding positioning of the road and its compliance with the neighbourhood plan. You will see from this revision that the road has now been moved closer to proposed built form and more in line with both the site allocation and the indicative layout submitted at outline stage. Next slide, please. As you can see here, the indicative plan submitted to the outline again kept the road and built form closer together. When the application was originally submitted, the attenuation basin was between the two roads, which pushed the road further into the open field, and as a result would have impacted on ecology especially, along with ridge and furrow. But as per the previous slide, the attenuation basin has now moved to the outside of the road positioning and allowed for further improvements also. Next slide, please. Another improvement to the site is the site levels that you can see before you. Previously, there was a number of retaining walls and significant land levels, meaning that a number of plots would have been overshadowed, especially at ground floor. But as you can see from this latest revision, it removes those more urban features and allows for a land level, which also provides natural light to the proposed rooms. That's the end of the presentation. Thank you, Adam. Appreciate it's quite a long and lengthy report and there's quite a lot of detail in it, but the application is recommended for approval subject to the conditions within that report. Thank you.
Thank you. Before we hear the speakers, do we have any questions for clarification of Louise at all, members? Nope. Okay. Right, Adam, I think the first speaker is Councillor Alex Warwick from Frisby Parish Council. Hello again, Councillor Warwick.
Hello there, can you hear me?
Hello, hello. If you'd like to address the committee, you have 3 minutes from when you start, and if you're running over, I will be letting you know. Okay.
Should be 2 minutes 58.
All right. Okay. Hang on then. Okay.
Frisbee Parish Council supports this revised application. We had objected strongly, particularly in relation to the route of the access road, which was far outside the limits of development defined in our neighbourhood plan. It is thanks to the manner in which your officers and Councillor Brown have facilitated direct discussions between the PC and the applicant that this matter has been so successfully concluded. Thanks are also owed to Oliver Purdy of Bowbridge and his advisors, particularly his engineers. It is fair to say that we've had some pretty robust exchanges. However, the debates have been professional and above all respectful. With the greatest respect, I believe there are some valuable take-home messages in all of this. 1. In contentious applications, try to facilitate debate between the parties before it gets to committee. No one should be expected to have to present complex technical concepts during a 3-minute speech like this. 2. Facilitating such meetings narrows the issues and makes it considerably easier for officers to report and for you to debate. 3. Appreciate that there are experts and professionals that reside in some parish councils and or within some communities who are capable of debating on equal terms with developers and their advisors. And 4, realise that every now and then you will have a resident or a parish councillor sitting before you who is an expert and a professional. I know from my own bitter experience just how one-sided this whole process can unfortunately feel. I have come before this committee in the past and have attempted to present complex technical issues to you within a 3-minute speech. I defy anyone to achieve much in such a forum. It simply isn't the place for it. Of course, the issues can be discussed with officers in advance, but this places a huge burden on busy officers who cannot be expected to understand the finer points of, say, vertical road design or groundwater modelling. This is all the worse where an applicant and or agent adopts a strategy of disdain and dismissal of expert objectors and their opinions. I know this all too well. I do not claim that all debates between parish councils and applicants will end as well as they have for today's application. There will still be disagreements, but at least there will have been a genuine opportunity to influence the outcome and debate directly with the applicant in front of officers and ward councillors. This surely is a good thing and has worked tremendously well here. A compromise has been agreed. For this, I thank you. I thank your officers and Councillor Brown, and I thank in particular Bowbridge and their advisors, who I believe should be applauded for engaging with the community, listening to the concerns and compromising. I am proud of what I have achieved here. I think most residents are now more supportive also, certainly more understanding. Thank you.
Thank you for that. I would just like to say that we do hold liaison meetings with parish council. In actual fact, I think I've had one today again, just to sort of watching what was going on. We do have a facility where we meet with ward councillors, the parish council, the developers and the planning officers to try and iron out some of the problems which come along, which, you know, and we do have experts there, and often, or more often than not, we actually meet and we sort of do find a way through this sort of problem. So thank you for your comments, but this system is in place now, and it has been for quite a while, but this is one that's been sort of long-standing. I can't remember exactly when the initial outline was granted, but this has been on the books for a fair while now.
It has, yes.
Yes, thank you. Councillor Holmes, you have your hand raised.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. How refreshing it is for Mr. Warwick to say what he has. I appreciate, Madam Chair, that you go to things and you listen to objections, but so often the ward councillors are not involved. It has happened so many times, and it has also happened so many times over the years when we have known that people know loads more than we do. We're lay people. We do our best, but we can't do any more than our best. We're not planners, we're not environmentalists, we're not whatever. But how refreshing for this gentleman to say what he's done. I know where he was coming from with one where there was all water, which is so ridiculous.
But Councillor Holmes, this is a point of
yeah.
clarification if you want to ask a question of...
Yeah, I don't just want to say thank you very much. That was all. And I thought that was something that ought to be said. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much for that. Any other questions? No. Okay, well, thank you very much, Councillor Warwick.
Thank you, and thank you for moving the agenda item for me. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, hopefully be able to attend your meeting now.
I need to make sure they vote for.
Okay. The next speaker is Jamie Piper, who's director, who's the agent. Good evening again. You're on mute, Mr. Piper.
Good evening. Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can do. Yes.
That's a relief.
No, I know. Technology, I don't know.
Yeah.
Right. You have 3 minutes to address the committee, Mr. Piper.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Chair. The proposals before you today are a result of substantial amount of discussions between my client, Bowbridge Homes, the local planning authority, the ward councillor and the parish council in a concerted effort to provide a scheme which satisfies everyone's objectives. I'm pleased to confirm that after many iterations of the plans, we have in the last month found a solution that addresses various points that have been raised. Fundamental to the layout of the proposals and design of the houses is the topography of the site, which those of you who have visited it will know is particularly steep. In this regard, my client's designers have worked hard to provide the layout which minimises the amount of cut and fill and retaining features, which respects the edge of settlement location and is in conformity with the outline consent. Similarly, the house types are bespoke to this location and have been developed to minimise the plot depth in order to avoid unnecessary retaining features, whilst also reflecting the local vernacular in terms of the appearance and proportion of the properties. The Parish Council have been particularly focused on the positioning of the access road into the site, with this being the subject of extensive discussions over the past 6 months. Having demonstrated to them that their preferred route along the southern boundary would result in retaining and boundary features circa 6 metres in height to achieve acceptable highways gradients, a compromise solution has been found which satisfies everyone's objectives and importantly minimises disturbance to the retained ridge and furrow and does not create unnecessary landscape intrusion or ecological or heritage harm. Furthermore, various technical comments made by the Highways Authority have also been addressed as part of these ongoing discussions. Bowbridge Homes are committed to providing a development which seeks to respond to the needs of the community, and in this regard, in consultation with your housing officer and ward councillor, have provided an affordable housing package which satisfies their requirements, including 8 discount for sale properties on the site, as well as a financial contribution towards off-site delivery for the balance. Likewise, the scheme also includes 4 bungalows, which is understood to be a welcome addition and address a need within the authority. Although not specifically required by the terms of the outline planning permission, Bowbridge Homes, in consultation with the local primary school, are to provide a new entrance into the school grounds from the development and have negotiated the acquisition of an additional strip of land from the landowner of the application site in order to create a new footpath link onto Gadsby Lane, which will hopefully be to the benefit of the wider village and something that the parish have specifically asked that is provided and intending to adopt. As will be noted in your officer's report, particular attention to the housing mix has been given, and notwithstanding the challenging gradients, the proposals are broadly in alignment with the authority's requirements. In certain instances, it has been necessary to provide home offices at first floor, as otherwise this would have resulted in additional retaining works and or disproportionately wide frontages, but where possible, these are located at ground floor. A large proportion of the properties...
That's time.
Thank you.
Thank you. I think you were just about finished anyway from the...
I was just about, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Do we have any questions of the speaker? Nope. Nope. Okay, well, thank you very much for coming along this evening, and sorry to have cut you off short, but we have to stick to the timetable. Thank you. Thank you. The next speaker is Councillor Brown, who's the ward councillor.
Hello, Chair, can you hear me?
Hello there. Yes, well, welcome back.
Thank you.
I'm sure you know the routine by now. It's 3 minutes, and we are being quite strict on the time, because otherwise we get sort of behind with our business.
Yeah, no problem, Chair.
Okay.
Thank you, Chair, committee and members, for allowing me to speak on this planning application. Over the last 9 months, Frisbee Parish Council and I have been discussing negotiating with officers in Bowbridge this planning application. As you will see from the original indicative outline application and permission to what we have in front of us tonight is very different. There have been several concerns that have been overcome. One, road layout. This was of the greatest concern to the whole community at the original proposal of reserve matters, as it was in the middle of a ridge furrow field, very much outside the neighbourhood plan and local plan limits to development. Through negotiation with the help of one of our parish councillors, Councillor Alex Warwick, having robust and professional discussions with Bowbridge engineers, a compromise has been reached. This compromise, although not perfect, does mean that less ecological damage will be caused to the site and need for less engineering. This would not have been achieved without the knowledge and input of Councillor Warwick. House layout design. During discussions, Bowbridge has listened to both the community and planners, making the required improvements. 3, footpath to the 607. Concerns were raised by residents over the single track road and pedestrians who use Gadsby Lane to the south of the site to walk to the bus stop and across the main road. We've raised the issue with Bowbridge, have agreed to install a path on the inside of the hedgerow. Once completed, the Parish Council will adopt the path. The land which the path will be built on has been gifted by the landowner. Footpath to the school. Residents raised the concern about the proximity to the houses. Bowbridge have considered this, agreed, and moved this further away from the houses. Ecology. This has been improved, and the developers taken on board comments of both the ecologist and the Parish Council. 6, market discount homes. 25% discount. This site was originally allocated 17 affordable homes at outline. After consultation with the NBC housing officer, we were informed that Frisbee no longer had a real need for this amount of affordable housing. We therefore negotiated with Bowbridge, 8 of these being market discount, hopefully for people with a local connection to purchase as a first home. The additional affordable homes will be commuted, and we hope that another rural village may benefit from this. Although the community feel this is not a suitable or ideal site, they and our Parish Council have been pragmatic in working with various organisations to make the best of what we have been handed. There have been other areas that we've had to accept, such as housing mix and room numbers, which the community has raised. Finally, I would like to particularly thank Councillor Warwick for the hours he has put into this reserve matters application, all members of Frisbee Parish Council, the Melton Borough Council planning officers for listening and giving us the time to negotiate with the developer. And also we need to thank Bowbridge for listening to us as a community. And although it has not been perfect, it's a great deal better than what we could have had. I therefore ask the committee approves this application in line with officer recommendation.
Okay, thank you. Do we have any questions of Councillor Brown? I can't see any hands raised. Thank you very much, Councillor Brown. We'll put you back in the waiting area until we've dealt with this agenda item. Thank you. Right, officers, do you have anything to add to what you've heard or further comments? No? Okay. Over to you, members. Do you have any questions of officers before we start the debate? Can't see any hands raised. Well, over to you, members.
Sorry, Councillor Holmes had.
Councillor Holmes, is this a question or is this start the debate?
It's starting the debate.
Okay, over to you.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. As the ward councillor said, it isn't ideal. It isn't what rural locations should be expected to have. But as he would like to me or all of us to propose this application because they have worked so hard on it, then I would be very happy to propose this application. And hopefully we will have learned a lot of lessons from this. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you. Councillor Higgins, I saw your hand raised.
Yeah, I'm happy to second that. Just congratulate all parties for the work that they've done on it. It has had some notable challenges, and I know that from, I think at one stage was especially on the road part, and I think if the road hadn't been moved, I'd be voting against it. And so that goes to testament for all the pre-work before it gets to the committee. I think it's Councillor Holmes said. So yeah, long may that kind of work continue. So really, there's not really a lot for the committee to necessarily debate. The only thing, as Councillor Brown said, I think it is imperative that rural people, the affordable housing is not passed into Melton, because there are still rural people who still need affordable housing, especially in the southern area of villages, rather than just, swapping it all into the town. There's significant affordable housing coming on into the town, and there's still a lot of people who are struggling to get affordable housing, discount market housing, as Councillor Brown said. So yeah, I'll be happy to vote for it, and well done to everyone involved.
Thank you for that. Councillor Steadman.
Yeah, I will echo what the previous councillors said, Chair. I think the parish council, the ward councillors and the developer, I have watched this application over its many iterations with great interest. In fact, I actually remember this coming to committee originally in 2018, and I can appreciate how hard the Frisbee Parish Council and Neighbourhood Plan fought for their neighbourhood plan. So to see them now negotiating at this level and to achieve so much, I think it's quite remarkable. I will be very happy to support this application. Thank you.
Thank you. And Councillor Chandler.
Thank you. I would just like to make one comment on the footpath that the developers negotiated with a local landowner. I remember at the outline stage, both Councillor Holmes and I both said you need a footpath up to the 607 because the bus service won't be there much longer. And the bus service isn't there any longer, and people have to walk up to the 607, and it's certainly not safe on that at the side of that narrow road. And full marks to the parish council and Councillor Brown for negotiating with the landowner to get a path inside his field. Well done to everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other speakers? No, I must admit this is a sort of a great success story. It perhaps doesn't satisfy everybody, but it's a huge improvement on what there was before, and it just goes to show what you can achieve when you have discussions and people actually listen. I think it's a really good result. Nobody else wants to take part in the debate? No. Well, we've had a motion a proposal to permit, and it has been seconded in line with the recommendations in the report. So I'll now go to the vote. Just going to find my list of councillors. Here we go. Right. So if you could please indicate if you're in agreement to permit, refuse or defer. Councillor Bindloss?
For.
Thank you. Councillor Brown?
Councillor Brown's not voting.
Oh no, he's not, is he? You're right. So he's not there. Right, sorry. This is what you got to do when you have a list. Councillor Chandler?
For.
Thank you. Councillor Faulkner?
For.
Thank you. Councillor Glancy? For. Councillor Hewson?
For.
Thank you. Councillor Higgins?
For.
Thank you. Councillor Holmes?
For.
Thank you. Councillor Posnett?
For.
Thank you. Councillor Steadman?
For.
Thank you. And Councillor Wood?
For.
Thank you very much, everybody. That application is permitted. Thank you. If you'd like to invite Councillor Brown back, Adam, that'd be brilliant.
Yeah,
There we
he's
go.
just coming in.
Very much. Right, we now go back to item 4.1. Application 20/00466, full retrospective application to regularise amendments to approval of application 18/01066 at 2 Vaughan Way, Bottisford. Who is doing this one? Is it going to be Louise or is it's Jim? Okay, over to you.
May we get the slides up, and we're at the beginning again now.
Right, sorry about that.
Well, sorry, Adam. Right, I think I was able to deliver this on Thursday before the gremlins attacked us, so I'll keep it as brief as possible, but
Okay.
obviously if you need more information, I can do the whole story. So really briefly, just to go through these first 4 or 5 slides, just to compare what's been approved, which on each screen is on the left, and what's been built in this case, because it's a retrospective application, on each screen on the right. And that cross references to paragraph 1.3 of your report. So that's the layout. You can see that the garage set down and slightly set back is now fully integral as a single rectangular building. If we move on, please, Adam. So the front elevation, again, you'll see the garage is no longer an ancillary element of that elevation, and also the introduction of the central porch feature, which adds a little bit of architectural interest. Sorry, Adam, and next, if you would, please. Yeah, this again, this is the floor plan again, just to reiterate how the garage on the right-hand side of the upper diagram is now subsumed into living space. And the next one. Sorry, that's the next application. I think you skipped one. There was certainly there was a plan showing the rear elevation, but it's in the reports as well if needs be. So I'll quickly go there. So if I can take you instead to paragraph 241 on page 14 of the report, you'll see the difference in the array, if that's the right word, of rear-facing windows. And I know one of the speakers shortly will be picking up some of the detail on this because it's of great concern to him. So basically, again, on the right, a garage door and a bifold and so on. And on the left-hand side this time, the as-built version with the, I think it's a kitchen door and window and lesser array of windows further to the right. Just a few words about retrospective applications. I know they wind us all up, probably no more than me, but they are legitimate. The law makes specific provision for them, and the law and guidance around them states they need to be treated like any other. So it's not the time for retribution or being upset, unfortunately. We have to, normal rules apply. It's the essential message. Equally, the issue isn't particularly about old versus new. It's about the acceptability or otherwise of the application as presented. Frankly, whether it's better or worse than what's gone before is the wrong test to apply. It's normal measures of acceptability in terms, in this case, street scene, parking provision, effect on the neighbours. It's a long way around of saying normal rules apply to all of these concepts. We consider that the differences are not that profound, not that out of keeping in this particular environment, and therefore putting the annoyance aside that a breach has taken place, the as-built version is considered acceptable, and therefore the recommendation is approval.
Thank you for that. Before we move on to hear the speakers, do we have any questions for clarification of Mr. Worley? No. Okay. If we can now call forward Councillor Bob Bayman from Parish Council.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Good evening again, Councillor Bayman.
Thank you.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Right, you have 3 minutes to address the committee, and we're being fairly strict on time at the moment.
I wonder if Adam can present my PowerPoint, please.
We don't normally do that.
Can I present it myself?
Yes.
Thank you.
Oh, no, hold on. We don't normally have presentations, do we? Tom? No. No.
I don't think it would be possible either to do.
No. But however, I would say that it has been sent out to everybody.
Can you see it?
Yes, but we don't normally allow it.
Well,
the same as we don't normally allow photographs, etc.
Oh. All right. Do I have to stop it then?
Could I have your advice, please, Tom, on this?
I've used it before when we've been live.
Have you?
Chair, I think it's probably your decision to make, and whether you think it's fair in terms of the other speakers, whether it confers an advantage. If it is just a case of photographs and maps, which it appears to be, that may be of assistance to members in any event. So it's a decision for you to make. Okay.
As long as it is of assistance only, then I'm willing to accept it.
Okay. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
Okay. So very simply, this is Vaughan Avenue, and these are the 2 sites that we've talked about over the last 2 meetings. This is only important from one regard, really. We hope that the 2 sites will be looked at together. But the 2 sites, when taken in both, they have an implication on the number of cars that are likely to be on the road, which is already a difficult place to park. And that's why I bring those 2 sites to play in the same place, both with the same address, of course. This is the site before the current work. And of course, the site that Jim Worley has just shown us is to the right there, that explains it. This is the building as it is now, as it's being built. And this is where the garage used to be. And of course, the apex on the garage in the plans were actually as 90 degrees to the current apex on that building, which gives a significant difference in terms of height for the local neighbours, which is unfortunate to say the least. And the fact that this is now not a garage, again, puts more pressure on the street, which is something that we know in that road we're trying to avoid. Which is obviously a concern of ours. The second thing, which is a concern, is now that the whole building is built quite significantly further back in the plot than was initially the plan. And whilst we're not here to compare one with the other, what this does mean is that it is too close now to local neighbours. That's the second issue that we're concerned about, because that's now much closer to the back build line, the back plot line, than it was previously. And the third issue is a more esoteric or more aesthetic one, let's say, where all the promised planting that was planned in the plans has not at all appeared, and instead we have like a plastic astroturf at the back there, and no planting at all, similar to what was in the original plans. And there is a fourth issue as well. The building next door, which we all know, I think, should be considered part of the same plot, really, because it's all of the same ownership and same address. That new extension has been added onto this, which isn't part of the proposal tonight, but is another oddity that's been part of this place, and we haven't yet seen any planning permission for this extension to have been built. So Botsford Parish Council objects to this, has objected before, and again looks for this to be thrown out tonight and rejected by the committee. And we would like to see adherence to the original plan for the 4 issues that we've described tonight. Thank you for your time.
Oh, thank you. Councillor Higgins, you have your hand raised.
Yeah, just 2 points. Well, there is a question to Mr. Bayman, but first of all, is I'm aware that I've been sent that presentation anyway, so I don't think with it being on screen it's been any advantage, because it was sent in advance to Democratic Services. So I just want that on record. The question is Councillor Bob Bayman was asking for us to, that they were objecting to it and to refuse it. It was just on what grounds for the refusals, because I was a bit confused on what grounds would he be directing his objection to sit on in policy terms?
On the grounds that it's not built in the position that it was agreed with planners before it was built. So it's now in the wrong position and too close to the local neighbours, and it doesn't have a garage, which puts further pressure on the parking on the on-street parking.
Okay, so is if you don't know, that's fine. I can go to officers to ask. But is there a policy in regards to what you're saying? Because as Mr. Worley says, we're not looking at the approved and the proposed. We're looking at is what's in front of us.
There's a policy. Yes, there is a policy for buildings to be built with sufficient parking that will allow the likely parking of those cars to be parked in an appropriate manner, and this doesn't allow for that anymore. It did originally, but it doesn't now.
Okay, thank you. That's helpful. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? No. Okay. Thank you very much, Councillor Bayman. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for being patient and waiting for the second agenda item. Our next speaker is Richard Colchester, who's an objector. Good evening, Mr. Colchester. Again, we meet again.
Good evening.
Right. You have 3 minutes, Mr. Colchester, to address the committee.
Thank you very much indeed. Chair, committee members, good evening again. I speak on behalf of the objectors to the retrospective planning application on the following main grounds. 1, the completed building does not comply with the original planner's report of 2018, granting application 18010884. This application undermines the planning department's decision. The site plan in the original report shows the bungalow and garage were to be built slightly further forward, nearer to the road. The garage was offset, so it had minimal overlap with the west of 71 Grantham Road. The current building is closer to 71 Grantham Road and overlaps almost to the apex of 71 Grantham Road. The resultant gap between the new build and a new ground floor extension to 2 Vaughan Avenue is therefore very narrow, with roof overhang and downpipe from number 2 into the passageway belonging to the new build. 2, as the new building has more overlap, no east-west garage apex, and is also closer to 71 Grantham Road, there is greatly increased loss of light and privacy. The west-facing ground floor window at number 71 now overlooks a back door, windows and a chimney, all closer than the original plans. In addition, all living spaces have been moved to the rear, maximising loss of privacy. The planning department are welcome to assess this issue. 3, the garden areas as indicated on the original plan showed bushes, etc. to front and rear. The final treatment of the front is totally tarmacadam, with other areas either paved or astroturfed. The original decision notice stated the permission authorises only the development shown. We submit that the new building is significantly different and is out of character with the area and is counter to planning policy D1. The application is also counter to the neighbourhood planning policy. A dominant, oppressive environment is created and is visually intrusive with loss of privacy, counter to planning laws that protect us all. We seek your support to reject this application. Thank you all for your attention.
Thank you. Do we have any questions of Mr. Colchester? Oh, Councillor Holmes, you have your hand raised.
Yes, thank you. If I could just ask Mr. Colchester, I was going to ask the parish councillor, but then he'd gone before I was going to ask. You were saying about the amount of cars, because I've been over a couple of times and there are cars always parked there, but of course it is in a different time, I suppose, that will be more cars. Are there more cars most of the time parked there? Because to me, I had the biggest job to turn round when I went into Vaughan Avenue, and I just wondered whether it has made more cars there. because obviously there's a lack of a garage and lack of parking place. Thank you.
Well, currently, I don't think the application in front of you tonight doesn't actually increase the amount of cars, simply because nobody's actually currently living in the property. But there is still an issue about parking on Vaughan Avenue and on the slip road, which is at the bottom of Vaughan Avenue, not unrelated to the co-op store, which is adjacent.
Yeah, what I was meaning was, if there are a lot of cars now, there will be more cars, surely, when this is finished.
Absolutely. Any further development will just exacerbate the problem we've already got, and actually Vaughan Avenue is also almost a rat run through from the station area of Bottisford to the Grantham Road.
Okay, thank you. Does that answer your question, Councillor Holmes?
Yes, thank you. Thank you.
Just pop your hand down then. Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Colchester. I don't believe there's any more questions for you, so we'll move you back to the waiting area. But thank you for coming along.
Thank you, Chairman.
Okay. Our next speaker this evening is Malcolm Bunn, who's the agent. Good evening, Mr. Bunn.
Good evening, how are you?
Fine, thank you. We can't see you, Mr. Bunn. Have you turned your video camera on?
Should all be working.
Well, we can hear you anyway if you can't get it to work.
Okay. Oh, hang on. Where's video camera?
I haven't got my glasses on, darling.
Oh.
Can't see you.
There we go. No,
There we
go. Well,
you've got me. Oh, dear.
Okay. So welcome. Okay. You have 3 minutes, Mr. Bunn, to address the committee.
Right. Thank you very much. This is an application that was born out of necessity rather than wanting to alter the thing in the first place. Due to family circumstances, my client wished to alter the thing to accommodate a family member. The garage and itself, the kitchen was enlarged, a utility room, an ensuite bathroom and a dressing room were incorporated so that it could be used for a family member. And a porch was included because of various bits. There is no alteration to the overall size or positioning of this bungalow on its site. Now, this can be borne out by the planning officer, who has at length been and measured everything front to back, side to side, so that she is happy that the building is less in size than the original, is in exactly the same siting position as the original. Now, as far as the front is concerned, we needed an open level area for specialised transport. So therefore, the whole front was done in a permeable tarmac. Fine, it will incorporate up to 4 full car parking spaces, but we just need to be able to access the house from the road with a specialised vehicle. And that is the only reason that it was done. And it was done halfway through the construction of the thing. But apart from that, everything else is the same. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Councillor Higgins, you have your hand raised. Do you have a question?
And it will be to officers as well as Mr. Bunn. You're stating that this is for a personal need, which potentially could be for either disability or for any other matter, but you haven't sort of touched on the part. Has that been part of this application? And if so, and then this part goes to the officers, are the officers aware of it and can provide advice on that?
The officers were aware of it originally, but they said that it wasn't wasn't something that the planners or the committee could comment on because it was personal to that end. I contacted my client and he said he got no problem. Yes, it is for a family member. And family member can't use the thing.
Yeah, sorry, not for a family member, because and you know that could be anybody, but in terms of disability or for a special case. For example, we had one in Grimston, which was for a particular child, and it was for educational reasons why the house needed to be in that location.
It's his father.
Yeah, okay, that's fine, but I'm asking if it's for any particular disability related or any other thing. For example, with a doctor, or I'm trying to get a little bit more than just it's a family member.
They're trying to take him out of the home he's had to be put in.
Oh, okay. So my question will be to the officers' chair is what they were aware of and if they can provide any light on that. But thank you, Mr. Bunn.
Pleasure.
Councillor Faulkner, questions of Mr. Bunn?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Mr. Bunn, you said that the changes were decided on halfway through.
Correct.
How can you change the foundations halfway through? Surely they were put in first in the wrong position, particularly where the garage was. So the foundation halfway through.
The foundations were altered. They only had to be altered front and rear, as the foundations to the side are in the same place as they were when the thing was set out originally.
Yes.
So all we've done is alter the depth of the building on that side.
So when you decided you needed to change the foundations to a different place,
yes,
did you not consider that might be the appropriate time to apply for the retrospective plan or plan permission or retrospective plan permission instead of leaving it until it was spot?
It's been in there a while.
That's not the question I asked.
No, it was as soon as we knew that we were going to do it, we made the phone call.
And can the planning somebody from planning confirm that is the case, please? Thank you.
Okay, perhaps we can answer that when the officers address the committee afterwards. Councillor Chandler, do you have a question?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chairman. I'm very concerned about this because we've taken away an access down the side of the property. Everything that goes round to the rear of the bungalow will now have to go through it. And now we've learned that.
Is this a question for the speaker?
It is a question for the speaker. Okay. How do you get a motorised wheelchair down the side of that property?
Why would you want a motorised wheelchair down the side of the property?
Because if you've got somebody who's infirm, they nearly always now need a motorised wheelchair, electric wheelchair, and they are quite substantial. They have batteries that have to come off and have to be charged, normally in a garage. I've got a friend whose husband's had to resort to one, and they can no longer put the car in the garage. They have to charge the battery up and store the wheelchair in the garage. But I'd just like to know why you didn't, along the line, we haven't been told about this. The parish council didn't know about it. I, as a ward councillor, didn't know about it. And I think we've all been sold down the drain a little bit on this one. Thank you.
Oops. Okay.
And the correct question is?
I think that completes all the questions. I think that the main reason, the main question from Councillor Chandler was why you didn't inform people when you were when the plan was going to be altered. Right. Any more questions for Mr. Bunn here? No. Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Bunn.
Thank you.
Right. Officers, do you want to come back with any answer to any of the questions that you've heard this evening? There's one from Councillor Higgins and one from Councillor Faulkner, I believe.
Yeah, a few bits and bobs, if I may, please. if I can start on page 11 of the pack, just to compare the site layouts, and again, it's just a matter of comparison. So the parking that Mr. Bayman raised, you can see it was previously of a tandem arrangement into a garage, and now side by side, that's the difference. But it's two either way, the configuration is different. I've been gazing at this plan, trying to discern any difference to the position of the house, front to back, not side to side, front to back. And I can barely pick anything out. And I do remember last Thursday, Mrs. Eastwood saying she's, and one of the speakers just said it themselves, she's been and measured this, and in where she reports the list of changes, that front to back dimension is not amongst them. So I can say with a high degree of confidence that we believe that that position is the same. Obviously, it's with the exception of the garage, which is wider, longer, or the ex-garage area is longer, shall I say. Mr. Colchester did some of my job for me, so the relevant policies are D1 and I think H6 of the emerging Boston neighbourhood plan. They're all about sympathetic to the surroundings and impact on neighbouring properties. So your judgment will inevitably flow both from or to those policies. Whichever way it should go, really. Councillor Higgins' question, yeah, I believe we were aware of that was the reason for the changes, and I think it was Mr. Bunn said, again, do my job for me, that it's not a material consideration in a case like this. And Councillor Faulkner's question, I have no reason to doubt I don't know with my hand on my heart, Councillor Faulkner, but I've no reason to doubt the sequence of events that was described to you. What I do know is they didn't wait for the answer, because we still sat here now and there isn't one.
True. Okay, thank you. Right, we've heard all the speakers now, and do we have any questions of officers to members? Councillor Bindloss, you have your hand raised.
Thank you, Chair. Just a question for Jim. So obviously you were aware that these alterations were being made. Does that mean then, therefore, that the building inspectors themselves were also aware of that, and that they would have been working on a new drawing, if you want, rather than the original?
Oh, I don't know the building control history, I'm afraid. Firstly, I don't even know whether our building control were involved. And secondly, probably more importantly to the question, is that they don't particularly need to concern themselves with adherence to drawings, because their role is limited to adherence to the building regulations, regardless of how it's achieved.
So it could have been that this was a privateer building inspector, couldn't it?
Yeah, we have about a 60% share of the market, so there's so there's 400 jobs a year that we don't see.
Thanks, Jim.
Thank you. Any other questions? No, can't see any more hands raised. Oh, Councillor Higgins.
Yeah, just a question. So and it's just to officers, just to clarify my thoughts on it. If the approved application was built, and then if they converted the garage for what I see here as utility bathroom dressing, would that require planning permission, or would that be permitted development?
It wouldn't require planning permission unless there was a condition preventing it. I don't, save for the difference to the garage door itself, it wouldn't be development at all, permitted or any other kind, because of the definition in section 55.
Okay, thank you. That's fine. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Right, members, over to you to debate. Who's going to be first? Saw Councillor Higgins first.
If you let Councillor Chandler go first.
Councillor Chandler, because you are the ward councillor.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. To me, this makes a total mockery of planning. I've been besieged by people who live in that area, Fleming Avenue, Vaughan Avenue, Station Road, Grantham Road, saying, what's the point of planning if somebody does something quite different? It is a serious issue about people needing disabled transport. And if somebody gets to having to have a motorised wheelchair, they are quite bulky, and I can't see how it can go round the back of the house down this narrow channel. It's possible to get a wheelie bin. I mean, Mrs. Eastwood did explain when Councillor Pritchett and I had a meeting with her that you could just get one down, but you wouldn't want a very big person pushing it, else the person wouldn't get down if you were very broad-shouldered. It's wrong, and we should, if we have a planning system which was brought in to regularise planning and makes it in 1947, I think, to regularise planning, and it has been eased over the years, but it is still totally wrong that people do these things and nobody knows. I mean, at least I think the ward councillors and the parish councillors should have been aware that it wasn't going to be built as per plan, because it was controversial at the time. That's all I've got to say, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Higgins.
Yeah, just to echo some sympathy for what Councillor Chandler was saying is, we've just had the Frisbee one, which was hugely contentious and over its history, and then we literally have just had the parish council, the ward councillor, and large parts of the community just sort of then saying, can you permit it? We're happy with the outcome, and sometimes that kind of debate is needed. It's also about just being a bit neighbourly, because people have to live in these homes, and if it upsets some neighbours, what's there, it can upset communities as well, and people will have to live in these things, and I think just that just needs to be said. There are planning rules and planning policies. It's like it's like when you're driving a car. Is my driving instructor at the time said 30 miles an hour when I was going down Dolby Road. It's a limit, not a target. Yes, you could do 30 miles an hour down there and you won't be breaking the law, but why do you need to drive that fast when you go past the schools? So just let's regularise what we're doing a little bit. The difficulty is, I think as Mr. Wall is trying to direct us in the report, is what's before us so offensive that it merits refusal under D1, and I don't necessarily think it does. That all said, there's some improvements I think on the front. I like some of the architectural parts to it. We've had the tandem parking, double parking issues before, so some people will see that as a benefit. And the thing is even if it was built to the approved part, what I think where we would struggle with is you could put it back to the approved part and then just when someone buys it, or just do all the internals before. So how much of a refusal gets you to where you're wanting. I just think, as Councillor Chandler says, I think the neighbours have been let down. I think the ward councillors and the system's been let down, and it's totally unnecessary. And also, from my point of view, this planning committee has got better things to be doing than reviewing these changes for one house, and that's down to the applicant. And the costs that are involved then go on to all the other applicants as well. And this applicant just needs to understand that it costs money to put this on. It's cost taxpayers to put this on. And while that's not a planning reason to refuse it, I think, come on, have some decency there. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Steadman.
Yeah, I think I'm probably just going to say what everybody's thinking here. I look at the current plans and it says 2 parking spaces, 2 times 2 3x4 Now I've looked up the design standard and the minimum is 4 8x2 So this is a new build property and we're not even making the recommended minimum standards, whereas the garage before was 3x6. If you're looking at a property that's designed, and it's a bungalow, so it's for pensioners, they will have disability aids. We've been through all of this before. And I see a gap down the side of that house at 700 millimetres. And I'm sorry, that is not enough. The minimum door width for wheelchairs recommended is 840 mil. And it's okay for the applicant to say, well, it's built for our specific needs, but I have to look at this house as a bungalow built for anybody with disabilities. We don't know what the future holds for this property. And if you're looking at a car that can take a wheelchair in the back, then you need 3 metres at the back to drop the back on it. I know, because I lend my drive to these vehicles because they can't do it in the street. So I think for something that is designed for someone with disabilities, I think it's a poor design. So we can't get anything down the side of the house. So looking at the current design, you've got to go through the porch, the hall, and then straight through the lounge dining room into the back. I think this is very, very poor design, and I'm going to move to refuse it on policy D1 and policy 8 of the neighbourhood plan. Thank you.
Okay. Councillor Chandler.
Thank you, Madam Chairman, for letting me speak again. I have great sympathy with everything Councillor Steadman has said. And I did mean to say when I spoke first that if members went along with this, that the permitted development rights should be taken away, because we don't want any more efforts of redesigning because it might suit somebody one day. So please, can we take the permitted development rights away? But I will certainly second Councillor Steadman on a refusal. Thank you.
Thank you. Are you agreeable to that, Councillor Steadman, to remove the permitted development rights?
Yes, Chair, thank you.
Okay. All right. Just making notes.
Excuse me, Chair, Mayor.
Yeah.
Got lost in the debate a bit there. So if I got this completely wrong, I thought Councillor Steadman was moving refusal.
Refusing.
Councillor Chandler's just seconded that.
Yeah.
So is the permitted on thing that should it be approved against?
Yes. If it's approved against the recommendation that we've just made, I would like to see the permitted development rights taken away. Thank you.
Well, let's just go through the motions for this particular motion, which is refuse. Okay. Am I correct, Mr. Worley? Yeah. Okay.
Yes, I believe so.
Right. We have. Oh, Councillor Higgins, you have your hand raised.
Yeah. Am I on mute? No. There we go.
No, you're not. You can. I can hear you.
It's the new system. So my apologies. No, I think it was as Mr. Worley was saying. It was just the residual hand up is if it's refused, we don't need.
We don't need
permission. No.
My error. I've got swept away with the debate.
I think I did say if permitted. I didn't say.
Sorry.
Yeah. So it was more part of your sort of address to the committee.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Well, let's deal with the first proposal. The proposal on the table at the moment, and that is to refuse. Do we have any other members who'd like to take part in the debate? No. Okay.
Recapping my understanding of the reason that's on the table, and partly for my own benefit, I have to say.
As I understand it, it's policy D1, local plan policy, and also neighbourhood policy was H6. I think that's correct.
Because of the limitations of the parking and the spacing around the building.
Yeah. Okay. So we have a motion on the table at the moment, so we have to go for a vote on that one. It is to refuse. I'll go through the list which I've got in front of me. Councillor Bindloss.
For
refusal.
For refusal.
Yep. Okay. Councillor Brown.
Or.
Councillor Chandler.
Or.
Okay. Councillor Faulkner.
Or.
Councillor Glancy, I'm afraid I'm for. This is very disappointing and it's totally unacceptable for the reasons stated by the proposer and seconder. Councillor Hewson?
For.
Councillor Higgins?
I'm going to abstain, but I understand the reasons for it. Thank you.
Okay. Councillor Holmes?
For refusal.
Thank you. Councillor Posnett?
For.
Thank you. Councillor Steadman?
For.
And Councillor Wood?
For.
Thank you. That application is refused. And if it does come back, we'd like to see something a little bit better than that. Thank you. So thank you very much, everybody. We now move on to item 4.3, which is 20/01512 2 detached dwellings in the rear garden of 161 Spalford Road, Melton Mowbray, and to demolish the existing garage and replace with a smaller detached garage. Who's doing this one? Is it Louise or is it Jim?
It's Jim again, please, Chair.
All right, okay, off you go then. Thank you.
Okay, so before we have the slides, just a brief update. A further representation has been received from the properties that are to the north of the property, so the north of the site. So they're not the ones that it's really close to front to back. It's another backland development in its own right that shares the northern boundary of this site. And the concerns there are that the upper windows from these two new houses would look straight into the rear of that other new house, therefore affecting its privacy. And they also keep bees at that property, and they're concerned that the introduction will affect the bees and their flight paths. I'll not go any further into beekeeping language because I'll be out my depth very soon. So if we can turn to the application itself, please, Adam, very briefly. So it's the two houses on the left-hand side of that screen, which you can see is very backland in nature, but not without comparison in that part of the world. It would be accessed through the existing drive of number 161, but that would be improved to allow two-way traffic. We move on to the next slide, Adam, please. So 1.5, to be architecturally correct in the use of words, 1.5 story with dormers facing front and back, and a rear and a blank elevation at the end. That's significant because of the houses immediately to the west. Otherwise, they're quite serious overlooking. And I think that is the totality of the slides. Thanks, Adam. Yeah. So our view is that these backland developments always throw up these issues about very detailed nitty-gritty, particularly relationships between buildings. But it's by twist of fate, basically, that we consider that in the particular set of circumstances here, and that includes the very unusual arrangement of the bungalows on Balmoral Avenue immediately to the west, and also just a little south, that the separation created by the public footpath. Through those lucky features, really, it just about satisfies some of these finer points that you have to look at in these situations, and therefore the recommendation is of approval.
Thank you. Any questions for clarification before we hear speakers, members? Oh, right, Councillor Faulkner, if you have your hand raised.
Thank you, Chair. Just for clarification, Jim, did you say to the north of these plots there's plan permission already granted for properties?
There's a house there already. Yeah. You might have seen it on your site visit, and this would be these would be back to back with it, because it is also back on facing down the hill.
Maybe I didn't look far enough into the site because I can't recall seeing it. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Right. I thought I heard somebody speak. Sorry. The first speaker this evening is Dr. Jessie Harris. If you could bring Dr. Harris forward, please, Adam. Good evening, Dr. Harris.
Good evening.
You have 3 minutes to address the committee, Dr. Harris.
Thank you. Obviously, I'd hoped that this would be a fairly straightforward application for planning, and I'm aware that the reason that the project has come to a committee decision is due to the large number of objections raised, which did come as a bit of a surprise to us. I wanted the committee to be aware that I have been informed by my neighbours to the north on Scolford Road that they've been approached twice by 2 separate parties asking them to object to the project, one of whom even offered to write a letter of complaint on her behalf. These neighbours are very supportive. They have no objection to the build, even though their houses are effectively immediately behind their garden. But obviously, they and we were concerned that other people might also have been coerced into objecting, and that might be a significant factor for the number of objections that were raised and might affect the outcome. And I can appreciate that the building of a new dwelling adjacent to people's properties, which previously enjoyed views over my large neighbouring garden, was never going to be a very welcome change. I can understand that, but I can assure you that we did consider the impact on the neighbours and the local environment at every stage of the project. The majority of the mature trees are preserved. The pond in my garden will be relocated to my new smaller garden, where there'll be more new trees planted once the build is complete. The level at which the houses are to be built has been dug down to be lower and level with the existing property. And the height of the houses is also kept to a minimum to reduce any overlooking of surrounding properties. The south-facing aspect of the plot actually means that there isn't a great deal of loss of light for any of the neighbouring properties, really. And obviously there have been discussions between Bill, the architect, and Lynn in planning. I know she's not here tonight. But after those, I was fairly confident that we have conformed to current planning guidelines, and we have been considerate of the neighbours when designing the project. And obviously, I hope the committee will give it its approval. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Do you have any questions of Dr. Harris? Nope. Okay, thank you very much for coming along this evening.
Thank you.
Thank you. Although you haven't really left home, have you?
No.
The next speaker, if you could move, Dr. Harris, thank you. The next speaker is Councillor Jacob Wilkinson, who's one of the ward councillors for this area. Good evening, Councillor Wilkinson.
Evening.
Welcome back.
Thank you.
You have 3 minutes to address the committee.
Thank you, Chair. Good evening, colleagues. I'm a councillor who's very supportive of Melton's local plan and very supportive of the need to increase housing stock both locally and nationally. There is a national housing crisis, and I always support the government's plan to help increase the supply of housing that is right for the local area and that's in keeping with the needs of local people. I'm not, however, in favour of unnecessary development, which has a negative impact on local residents. Over the last few months, I've received a significant number of correspondence from local residents who believe that this application, if it were to proceed, would have a negative impact on their properties. I have an obligation to the applicant as well, as they are also a constituent, so I reviewed the application with an open mind. However, having reviewed the objections that came to me personally and on the council's portal, and having reviewed the details of the application, I've come to the determination that I agree with the concerns that have been raised by local residents, and therefore believe that the committee should not approve this application. Although the local plan does not take into consideration small developments such as this one, the northern part of town will experience a significant increase in house building over the next decade with the proposed Northern Sustainable Neighbourhood. Additionally, there is a site to the north of Dieppe Way, which has been allocated for housing within the local plan, which is Mel 6, for 37 dwellings, which will be adjacent to the application. I therefore believe that over the next decade, the area around this proposed application will already have an adequate level of new housing as per the local plan.
In addition to this, the application would lead to what I believe is the overdevelopment of a very small parcel of land, which is currently a large back garden. And the proposal, the site, which is only 0.11 hectares, would have 2 large detached properties situated immediately adjacent to long-established properties on Balmoral Road, as well as having a detrimental impact on properties on Ludlow Drive and Scorford Road. Reviewing the objections, there are significant concerns raised by local residents with regards to the above-mentioned proximity of the proposed dwellings to the existing housing. Given that the established houses on Balmoral Road are bungalows, they will be overlooked predominantly by Plot 2 of this development. Residents have raised concerns that the position of Plot 2 will have a detrimental impact on their privacy, and which the residents currently enjoy at the moment. This would also be the case for Plot 1 for properties on Scorford Road and to some extent on Ludlow Drive, although I appreciate that the applicant has said that the residents on Scorford Road, their neighbours, are happy with their application. Although the developer is proposing a 1 metre fence along the adjoining boundary, I do not believe that this will sufficiently satisfy either myself or residents on the issue. Furthermore, I do have significant concerns with the removal of hedgerow, which will replace the fencing. The continuing fencing of urban gardens has had a significant impact on small mammal populations throughout the UK. And if this application was to be approved, I would request that the hedgerow boundary be retained as a condition of the application. Have I run out of time?
You have indeed.
Oh, okay.
Have you nearly finished? Yeah.
There's quite a lot more, but I did give a written submission to the committee in advance of last week's meeting, so I'm happy if they've reviewed that.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you. Do you have any questions of Councillor Wilkinson? I see you have your hand raised, Councillor Higgins.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Wilkinson. Is it in relation to, is it your submission that in relation to Balmoral Road, the bungalows there, because they'll be faced with the gable end, which is just a brick wall. Is that is that what you were trying to suggest? That wasn't acceptable?
Yes. Yeah, I believe that isn't acceptable, and the residents on Balmoral Road agree. Well, I agree with their objection that they would lose privacy and some element of light as well with regards to the position of Plot 2 in particular. And there is a potential that I think it may be a bathroom that could be overlooked into from the proposed Plot 2 on this application.
Okay, so because you gave quite a lot of reasons for it, would you say that's your strongest argument on this, or are there other ones? Because I was just trying to work out.
Yeah, that's my primary concern. I also have significant concerns about Scorford Road, the busyness of the road, the position of where the driveway is going to be adjacent to an alley, which is used a lot by school children. It's a very narrow pathway along that part of Scorford Road, and I do have concerns that it has the potential to be dangerous with 2 drives very close next to each other and then adjacent to a very well used alleyway and a very narrow pathway which is used by children at peak times as well as other people.
Okay. Chair, that's been really helpful. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? No, I can't see any other hands raised. Well, thank you very much, Councillor Wilkinson. We'll move you back to the attendees now. Thank you very much, Adam. Thanks, brilliant. Do you have any questions? Oh, officers, do you want to respond to anything you've heard? Mr. Worley? No, thank you. Nothing at all?
No, not at this stage.
All right, members, do you have any questions for, I can see 2 hands up. Who was first? Councillor Faulkner.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Just on the question to officers, what is the separation distance between the wall on Plot 2 and the bungalows on Balmoral Road?
I could answer that, but I'll let officers do it.
So can I. It's quoted in the report, and I think it's 3 meters. Just let me check. It's not tripping me up again. Yeah, it's just some people might not have seen the report, so I was just so I'm just making sure that we know it's 3 meters. Thank you. Okay, thanks.
Councillor Steadman, believe you were next.
Sorry, yes, just wanted to confirm with Jim. Councillor Wilkinson said concerns regarding the access. I assume Highways have come back and said that the access is okay on this, have they?
If I can take you to where we just were in the report, the very next section talks about the Highways Department's contribution, and they're happy now. There were amendments on the way.
Yeah, there was something about the fence height, wasn't there?
Yeah.
Yeah, and creating a visibility display that I don't think was there.
Yeah.
The first.
Councillor Chandler, I briefly saw your hand raised. Do you have a question?
It was, it's basically been asked and replied to, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
It was a separation distances.
I just thought I'd spotted it when
Thank you. Thank you.
Right, members, we've had some questions. Now it's over to you to debate. Who would like to start? Right, Councillor Faulkner.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I'm very concerned about this separation distance. You know, for somebody to build a wall of the side of that house, 10 feet from my house, I would not be very happy at all with that. So I'd like to hear what other people's thoughts are on things. Thank you.
I think it's probably more than 10 feet. It's 7.4 metres, isn't it?
Hang on.
Might be wrong. Councillor Higgins.
Excuse me, Chair, but I just asked what it was, and I was told it was 3 metres.
3 metres away, yes, but the height is more.
Yeah, I'm on about the building.
Sorry.
On that side, 3 metres away. Thank you.
Oh dear, right, sorry. My misunderstanding. And Councillor Higgins.
Yeah, no, thank you, Chair. I thought what Councillor Wilkinson said was a really good submission, actually, and he does speak well when he comes to planning, especially on behalf of residents. He does put their views across. Sometimes, as ward councillors, we know you have to put the residents' views across, not necessarily meaning that's what you agree with yourself, because you're there to represent them. But I did think he had taken some very considered understanding in terms of the distance between the Balmoral Road bungalows and this part, which I think Councillor Faulkner was trying to relate to. I think if I mean, I had to go to this site twice because I don't think I fully appreciated the amenity of those residents, and I wouldn't want them to feel that they were too enclosed or boxed in just by lots of brickwork, and this is no disrespect to the Balmoral Road there. It's a lot of brick, and so skylight brings a different kind of vista to it, the trees, the hedges, and while I won't go into beekeeping, like the same reason Mr. Worley said, birds, all that can sort of bring a little bit of nature back in. I'll listen to more of the debate, but I am struggling with plot 2 because of the height of it and then where it is for those residents on Balmoral Road. I think pretty much everything else for me is quite fine. And then it would be another one of these D1 situations where, and on the last application, it was all about your judgment on it. So that's where other councillors may sit. Some councillors may disagree with me, but I think plot 2 is just probably too much in regards to D1 of not really hitting the design parts. The rest of it I'm fine with, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Bindloss.
Thank you, Chair. I like Councillor Higgins had to go twice to look at this. And I think that the picture on page 56 portrays the issues that we're talking about here with regard to plot 2 and Balmoral Avenue very well, especially when you look at the light that's shining down. You can very clearly see from that exactly the kind of light that these residents are going to lose. And I've actually been in one or two of these properties for different reasons when I wore my other hat. So I know what they're like inside. And I have to say that I would have a huge issue with having a brick wall suddenly put up, well, not 10 feet from where I was actually living. And I think, yes, but plot 2 has some problems with that. Thank you.
Councillor Faulkner.
Yes, Chair. Just a thing. I don't know. Obviously, I can't ask you. But did they ever consider that if they'd done those houses around by 90 degrees, so there's a much bigger separation distance between there and Balmoral Road, that might have been more acceptable? I'm not saying it would have been acceptable, but it might have been more acceptable. I don't know what other people think on that.
I don't know. I think it's not for us to sit here and speculate how they should adjust, etc. Is it? It's whether this is acceptable before us this evening. However, we probably can make some recommendations if we decide to go down the route of refusal. Anybody else? You still have your hand raised, Councillor Faulkner.
Yes, I was going to put forward that we refuse this on the grounds of overdevelopment in the way it is actually presented as it is now, contrary to D1. Thank you.
Okay. Now the next person to speak would have to second. I think I saw Councillor Chandler hand raised.
I would like the debate to continue before I come to a conclusion, but I would like to speak after you've got a seconder.
Right.
Thank
Councillor Holmes, thank you very much, Councillor Chandler. Councillor Holmes?
Yeah, I never have been keen on backland development, and to me this seems like land grabbing. I don't like it. I actually thought that it was just, well, I couldn't believe that we were going to have 2 more houses in a little area, and I have got to say that I will go along with my fellow councillor and are happy to second refusal.
Thank you for that. Any other? Oh, actually, Councillor Chandler, do you want to come back into the debate now?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chairman. I too have grave reservations about backland development. When I was first on planning, backland development was always a no-no. But now with our need for housing, we've had to accept it. And it never really works because it's very, very difficult to stop overlooking and to respect other people's privacy. Noise comes into it as well. And I do have, you know, I think it's land values that are doing this at the moment. I mean, somebody in Bottisford told me that they were thinking of putting in an application because they've been told they could get 120,000 for a tiny bit of land to build a house on. And this is bound to attract people to put in for planning applications. But I personally don't think this one is an acceptable site. I have to say that. And Councillor Wilkinson made the point that there are other sites in Melton North that are down in the local plan for development. So are we really so desperate for 2 houses that we have to build and compromise other people's living standards? That's the only question I would ask. Thank you.
I think I sort of agree with you totally, Councillor, on that one. I don't know why. Well, I don't really think we are terribly challenged to provide housing to that extent where we have to settle for something like this is before us this evening. Having visited the site and walked up the access path to properties on Balmoral Road, the 7.4 metre high gable end of plot 2 will be 3 metres from the entrance door and window, totally overshadowing the property. That photograph on page 56, as Councillor Lindloss pointed out, is a very good example. I mean, and that just shows the overshadowing with a 1.8 metre high hedge. So when you have 7.4 metre high brick wall facing you, it's not very living. It's not very providing very good living standards to people living in those bungalows, really. Any other people want to make any comments on this before we go to a vote? Actually, Councillor Posner, I see your hand raised.
Thank you. Oh, hang on. Thank you, Chairman. I don't disagree with anything that my colleagues have said. I mean, you and I visited the site together but separately, and we had quite an adventure getting up the lane to go and have a look at the back.
27-point turn, I think it was, wasn't it?
Yeah. Where these houses would be. And then we walked up the public footpath to Balmoral Road. And from that access, it was very difficult to see what was going to happen inside the plot. I think to really view the plot, you've got to go up the lane to have a look at the whole of the area. But one of my main concerns is I still don't see, with demolishing the garage on 161, is it, that would make that two-way traffic. And I am really concerned, as Councillor Wilkinson was, with the use of that public footpath. And we all know what it's like when John Fernley either starts the day or ends the day, the number of pupils there are walking down Scorford Road. And it is a busy road. I mean, even when we went on Sunday morning, traffic was coming up and down the whole of the time. And you didn't really feel, well, I certainly didn't feel very safe at parking my drive on Scorford Road to go and have a look at it because of the amount of traffic that was there. So
it was a bit hairy.
It was a bit hairy. And they're my main concerns, Balmoral Way, plot number 2, and obviously making sure that public footpath remains safe, not just for the pupils of John Fernley, but the local residents who use it. Thank you.
Right. Can I just recap the proposal to refuse? Is that in line with which policies, Councillor Faulkner? Was it D1?
Yes, Chair, D1 because of the overwhelming size of the wall there facing the.
Okay, thank you. I just want to double check before I go off announcing it. I assumed it was, but you hadn't. I don't think you'd actually said it. Any other contributions to the debate before we go to a vote? Nope. Okay. Well, that is proposal to refuse due to the the impact of basically the application, and it's not sort of not complying with policy D1 in our local plan. Okay. So if I go through, sorry, Councillor Posnick, you have your hand raised still.
Sorry.
Right, okay. So thank you for that. If I go through the list, if you could all indicate whether you're for, against, or abstain for the vote, to refuse. The first one on the list is Councillor Bindloss.
For.
Thank you. Councillor Brown.
For.
Councillor Chandler.
For.
Councillor Faulkner.
For.
Okay. Councillor Glancy. For. Councillor Hewson.
For.
Councillor Higgins.
For.
Okay. Councillor Holmes.
For.
Councillor Posnett.
For.
Okay. Councillor Steadman.
For.
Okay. And Councillor Wood.
For.
Thank you very much. That is refused. Thank you. Item 5, I don't have any urgent business this evening, but I would just like to point out, Councillor Higgins, you've got your hand raised.
After you finish, Chair.
Right, okay. Just like to point out this is our last meeting this year, and I'd like to personally thank everybody on the committee for the time they have taken to go to site visits, study the applications, and come forward with their very valued opinions. It's been a pleasure working with you all. So I know we probably have a different committee next year, because I know Councillor Faulkner is moving on to something else. So just to say thank you and best of luck with whatever you decide you're going to be doing next year. Councillor Higgins.
Yeah, well, thank you for that, Chair. It's been great to work with you as Chair in planning. Just a bit of lightheartedness, as it is May the 4th, and so May the 4th be with you all.
Oh, very nice.
And residents as
indeed.
well.
Thanks. Councillor Falconer, you have your hand raised.
Yes, I'd just like to say, as I'm moving on to other things at the council from the AGM, how much I've enjoyed my time on the planning committee, and who knows, all things being nice at the end of my next year,
You might come back.
I'll be back.
Brilliant.
Thank you.
Okay. So thank you very much, everybody, and we'll see you perhaps in person at the next one. Who knows? Who knows what's ahead of us? Okay. So thank you, everybody. The meeting will be closed now at 7:45. So thank you.